All right, let's go ahead and learn how to rearrange a class roster into different groups of students. Now, you can access the groups page in two ways. On your navigation menu over here on the right or left-hand side, top half, you're going to have a Tools link. And one of those tools is going to be for groups, right over here. Now, by default, this groups link is not going to be visible to students. So if they come into Tools and they try to get to their groups page, they're not going to be able to because it's invisible. So if you're going to use groups, you should first click on the Show link here to make this page visible. Additionally, I would go over here to your plus sign in your menu and click on plus New Tool Link. And we'll call this link student groups. The type, so which tool are we working with? Well, the groups tool. So right under here for groups. And we able to users and hit submit. It's going to appear by default at the bottom of our list. So we'll go ahead and drag it up somewhere a little bit more close to what we're doing, maybe under the discussion board. Where you want it is up to you, but so now we have a direct link to groups. And then you can also access groups by going to your control panel over in the bottom half of your navigation menu, clicking on Users and Groups, and then the Groups tab right here. So these will all go to the exact same location where we have our groups creation page. Now, because I did not actually click on Show Link, even though I have this student group link in my navigation, if we go into user mode, the users will still be able to see that student groups link in the navigation, but inside their tool menu, if they were to go in there, they will not see the groups link because it's not visible. So that's why if you're going to be using groups, it's always good to also enable it inside your tools list right here. So click on Show Link, refresh, and now in user mode, there is our groups page. Now, to actually create a group under our groups page here, we have the option to create a group. Now, under the Create tab, we can do a single group or a group set. And for the most part, for self-enroll under single and self-enroll under group, they're going to be the exact same thing. The difference is that when we do a group set, we're creating multiple groups with the same properties and essentially the same name, just with a unique number at the end of the name. And I'll show you an example of both. So here we have an example of a self-enrollment individual group. We have our group name, description of the group. We have the different tools that are available. We are going to allow them to personalize the page. We have our sign-up sheet name and then a description for the sign-up sheet, our maximum number of members in this group. And what I'm going to do is I actually like to not show the members of a group until you actually enroll. And the reason for this is you don't want people singling out the top achievers and all trying to join that same group or avoiding the lower achievers. They should all be a pretty even mix. And so with this option not checked, nobody can choose favorites. And so it's much more randomized, it's much more realistic to the real world. So I like to have this option unchecked. And then I also like to keep this option checked. So when they go to this link up here, the student groups link, they're going to see the sign up page directly within their Blackboard link. And so it keeps things very easy to find. And then we have number 5, group options, and then number 6, submit. For our enrollment or our group set, we have everything is the exact same. So we have our name, the tools, etc., etc. The difference comes in section 5, where we are going to choose how many groups are we going to duplicate. So we're going to have 3 groups that all have the same properties and the same name, but they're going to have a unique number at the end. And I should point out that for these tools, like blogs and discussion boards, the discussion board is not tied in any way to the overall course discussion board. This is a unique walled-off area that only members of this group can access. And that means as the instructor, the only way you're going to be able to view the discussion board is to click on that group and then click on the discussion board tool link within that group. You can't find it anywhere else. And if you're not going to be using a tool like the wikis or content or file exchange, you should uncheck them. That way users don't have links that they have to look at that they'll never ever need to utilize. And it keeps their overall interface clean, and that is what we want when we are designing our course. So we want to keep things as simple as possible and as organized as possible. So we have the same options here. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And again, this is our group set. So here we have our group set, and then for the name, they all have the exact same name. And then if we go over to our individual group and we hit submit, we add it to the list, here is our individual group, and you can see that it is not part of a group set. And if we go to create single group manual enroll, it is the exact same process as the sign-up sheet, except now we have a membership box where we can add individual users, and we'll have this student list displayed. And for privacy, I'm not going to go and drag it over, but I will say that what you can do is you have a series of checkboxes you can click on, and then you can submit how many people you want in that group. And because it is manual, you're going to see that we do not have the option to choose how big the group size is going to be by default, because we're going to manually determine that. On the other hand, if I go ahead and cancel this, if we go up to create and under the group set, if we go to group set manual enroll, we will see that it looks again the same as with an individual group, except now we have the option to determine the number of groups we're going to create. So let's say we're going to create 4 groups. And now we're going to go ahead, give it a name and stuff first. And because this is a set, I'm going to keep my theme going on with project management. So the name will be for construction, a description of the group set. And our group set number of groups will be, let's go with 3, just to keep things simple. And you're going to note that we don't actually have a page where we can describe our sign-up sheet or even choose users. That's because when we are doing a group set manually, once you come to this page and you give your group set a name and a description and choose the tools they can access, and then the number of groups you're going to create from this set, we go ahead and hit submit, and now we have the option of choosing individual users for each of our 3 groups. And we can go ahead and give these names. So you see how we have, again, our names for these sign-up sheets are all the same with a unique number at the very end. And when you do a manual group set, this is where you can then go in and change these individual names. Though you can also change these at any time, and I'll show you how later. Now, when we add users, we get the exact same screen where we have our list of users here. And again, I'm not going to expose them for privacy. So we have all these people and a series of checkboxes that I can click on to add them to my course. Now, if I want everyone who is enrolled to be a part of this group set, and I want to equally distribute all of my users into however many groups I have created, that's where the randomize enrollments button comes in. So if I click on this, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Because you're going to enroll every user in your course into this group set, but in equal numbers. So I hit OK, and look at that. For group 1, there's our users. For group 2, there's our users, and then group 3. And we can always add and remove users individually if you want to. To delete an individual user, just go ahead and click on this little X to take them out. And then the Add Users button will bring up that users page for everybody enrolled in your course. So if you hit Randomized Enrollments, this is how you can populate your group set with an even number of individuals, but it pulls from your entire course roster. So do keep that in mind. And we're going to go ahead and hit Submit. And now as we can see, there's our single group that we created before. And now we have our group set number 1, and then group set number 2. And then last but not least, if we go to create and then random enroll under the group set, it is exactly the same as how we did our manual enrollments, but now instead of splitting up our course roster into equal numbers depending on how many groups we have, we're taking our course roster and splitting them up into a number of groups dependent on how large each group will be. So we have the option, again, if we do number of groups and we do 5, for example, that's going to do the exact same thing I just showed you with manual enrollment and then randomizing that. However, if we go over here to number of students per groups, we can choose, say, 4 people per group. And again, it's going to be randomized. So we're not going to have any control over how these users are constructed because it's random enrollment. We then can choose what to do with anybody who is left over. So we can choose to put them into a random group that we've already created, or all of the people left over can be put into their own group, or we can manually choose to add anybody left behind into an individual group. So this is going to be up to your user preference and what your goal for the group is. But again, similar process. So under create group set, if we do a manual enroll, we can manually select individual users, or if we randomize that, we will pull our entire roster and split them into the number of groups we've created. And we can do the same thing under the random enroll option here. It does the exact same thing. But with this option, we have the added bonus of instead creating the number of people per group and then creating the groups based off of that total enrollment divided by that number. So I know that that's a lot to take in, so hopefully it all makes sense. What's cool though, so the reason why I have multiple group sets is, let's say I have a really massive class, and so everybody might be enrolled with one project, but what I could do is I could click over here and email that group with some instructions if everybody is enrolled in that one group, or maybe they're in multiple groups but everybody is part of the same group set. I can come over on this side and choose to email everybody in that group set. So I can email everybody in the retail management set, or I could come down here to construction and email anybody, or actually email everybody who's in this construction group set. Or individually go over to this side and email individual groups, as is. So Blackboard gives you lots of control for organizing a course into pretty specific roles and groups. Alternatively, we can come over here to any link in our group set on the right-hand column and click on this little circle. And this is where we can edit that group set properties or redistribute membership. And we can also even delete the group set if you want to. But if you do, everything your group created is also gone, so do be careful with that. And then if you come over here onto the right or left-hand column where the individual groups are, if we click on any group, we have the option of opening the group or editing that individual group. And under Edit Group, this is where you can actually change these to individual names if you want to. So even though the group set auto names all of your groups, you can go back in and change this if you want. Now, last but not least, what does all of this actually look like in practice? So as the instructor, you're going to see every single group you've created in every group set, and you can organize these rows by clicking on the name above each column. You also have the option for looking at a group set, clicking on the group set, and then viewing all of the groups in that set. And whenever you click on an actual group, you as the instructor will then come to this group properties page where you can edit things. But this is the group tools I was talking about. So if your group is blogging or they're having a discussion board or a journal, this is where you as the instructor would go in and actually see any discussions that are taking place. Now, as the instructor, you have the ability to create new forums for your group to post in if you want to have them organize their forum in a certain way. You can also give them the power to create their own forums. And this is why that can be useful, because each group is responsible for their own discussion board. Now, on the user side, if I go ahead and refresh my page now as a user, you will see that this group here I was automatically enrolled in. So now I have this group that I am a part of. If I click on it, I will have my group member list visible right here. And again, as the instructor, you have the option of disabling this view if you want to. And again, I have these same group tools where I can go to my group discussion board and I can click on this forum and I can create a new thread inside this forum. And then my group can, communicate accordingly in this forum or any other tool that as the instructor, you've given them access to. And then for this single group, I can click on the sign-up sheet if I want to be a part of that group. And it tells me what the group name is and description. And then it tells me how many people are allowed. And currently nobody else is enrolled. And I can go ahead and click on the sign-up button. And once I do, now that page is right here. So here's my overall group page with my tools and everything else. And if I go back to the student groups link on the side here, there's my group in my groups list. And last but not least, if we go to the open enrollment group set, I can go ahead and view the sign-up sheet for that group, and I can choose which group I want to be part of within that set. So we have some choices here. So again, you have lots of options, and you can really get creative with how you organize your course, especially if your course has lots of people enrolled. And remember, whenever you or any member of your group sends an email, it's going to always go to their default university email address, and you cannot change this. The only way that they're going to get their email to their personal address is if they've gone into their university account and manually set up mail forwarding.